Good morning, students. In last class we have studied the definition of GIS, different components of GIS, and the operations or different steps for GIS, okay, Geographic Information System. And today's topic is data representation in GIS. That is, data in GIS is represented mainly in two forms. First one, vector data, that is, this data in GIS can be represented as a vector data or as a raster data. So we can discuss one by one. First one, vector data. So vector data means it is a coordinate based representation. That is, this data will be having some coordinates which represents its location. So that coordinates will be its latitude and longitude. Okay. So by using this coordinate system we can locate that point. So vector data is a coordinate based representation, and this represents geographic features. That is, in vector data representation, geographic features are represented as points, lines and polygons. Okay. Points means if we want to locate some well, schools, buildings, etc., we can represent it as a point data. Okay. And if we want to represent some road network or river, etc., we can represent these data as a line. Okay. And in some features will be having some area, that is boundaries of cities, forest, some lake, etc. So it can be represented as a polygon. Okay. So in this type of system or in this type of data representation, this data or features can be represented as points, lines and polygons based on which type of data we are representing. Okay. So if it is a river, we can represent it as a line. That is, here it is shown in this figure. These are points. This red dot is point. That is, this feature may be some school, or it may be some well, or it may be a house, etc. So like that we can represent it as a point. That's one type of vector data representation, as in the form of points. Next, there are some lines here. That is, here there is a these are streets, roads, pocket roads. These roads are represented as a line. Okay. So it is another type of vector data representation as lines or polylines. That is, road center lines, rivers, trails, streets, etc. can be represented as a line. Okay. So here these are streets. So it is represented as a line. Then last type of representation is polygons. That is, this is one polygon. That is, here the boundaries of cities are represented as polygon. And also, if there is any lake, it will be having some area, so it can be represented as a polygon. Or forest can be also represented as a polygon. Okay. So these are the different types of vector data representation in GIS. That is, as points, as lines or as polygons. Okay. So this is vector data in GIS, and vector data representation is like this. Okay. Next is raster data. Second type of data representation is in the form of raster. Okay. Here the geographic space, our space, is divided into grid cells, and the data is represented using these cells. That is, our area is divided into different grids or small cells, and our data is represented using these cells. Okay. So this each cell will be having some value. In the case of raster type of representation, each cell will be having some value. And here also we are representing it as point, line and polygon. Point feature means it is represented by a single cell. Okay. So if we are representing a single cell, it will be point feature. That is, it will be having 0 dimension. Okay. And in the case of line, it is represented by series of cells. If you want to represent some line, that is, if you want to represent any street or road network, we will be using series of cells like this. So it will form a line. So it is a one-dimensional parameter. Okay. Then third type is polygon. Okay. So it should be having some area. So it is represented by a group of cells like this. So it is two-dimensional area. Okay, like that we can represent the GIS data in form of raster. Okay, so if we are representing it as a raster, the whole area is divided into different cells. Each cell will be having some value. And if we are representing it as a point, we are using one single cell. And if we want to represent one any line feature, we use a series of cells, and for representing any polygon we use a group of cells. Okay, so this is the data representation in the form of raster. Okay, so I think you are clear with vector data and raster data. So this is the vector data representation in the form of points, lines and polygons. And for the case of raster data representation, we are using grid cells. Okay, so this is raster data representation. So in this figure, it is a raster map. Okay, so that is this is the area, real world area, which is to be analyzed. So this area is analyzed using vector map and also using raster map. Okay, so this is the raster map of this area, and this is the vector map of this area. Okay, so here there is a lake, and there is road network, and these are forest. Okay, so in the case of vector data for vector map, we are representing the river using polygons, and lake also using polygons, and for representing highway we are using lines, like that. Okay, and in the case of raster map, we are dividing the whole area into different cells, grid cells, and using these cells we are representing data, and for polygons we are using a group of cells, and for representing this road we are using series of cells in order to represent as a line. Okay, so this is vector data and raster data, and here these are different raster layers. So for this raster layer we are using the grid cells. Okay, so here it is representing the highway, that is road. Here there is highway, so we are using a series of cells, and here it is representing the drainage, that is river. Okay, so for you we are using group of cells, and here we are representing forest, that is in the form of polygons, and so we are using group of cells. Okay, so I think it's clear. If you have any doubt, you are free to ask me by WhatsApp or by call. Okay. Next, last topic, vector versus raster. That is, this is the vector data model, this is raster data model, and in the case of vector data model, the point is represented like this, point data. So the same feature, when we are representing it as a raster data model, it will be like this. That is, here it is divided into different cells, and the point is represented by taking one cell. Okay, so this is the data representation of line in the case of vector data model. So for representing the same line in raster data model, we are using cells, we are using series of cells. Okay, and here it is the area which is represented using vector data model or polygon. Okay, so for representing the same area, we are using a group of cells in the case of raster data model. So here it is the representation of area or polygon in raster data model. So this is the vector versus raster model. Okay, so this is very important portion. So in exams, if it is asked, you should draw this figure also. That is this figure if they are asked to explain raster data, and for explaining vector data you should draw this figure. And if it is asked to analyze the difference between vector and raster, you should draw this figure. Okay. So next portion I will put in the next video. Thank you.